Gemini, discover your authentic self and finding your true voice in the world. There comes a moment in every Gemini's journey when the noise of the outside world grows too loud, when the countless voices, opinions, and expectations begin to blur the lines between who you truly are and who you've been told to be. As an air sign ruled by Mercury, you are blessed with a quick mind, a fluid voice, and the ability to dance between different worlds with ease. Yet within this gift also lies your greatest challenge, the danger of losing yourself in the endless stream of possibilities, of wearing so many masks that you forget the one face that belongs to you alone. This path toward discovering your authentic self is not about rejecting your adaptability, but about anchoring it in truth. It is about realizing that your voice is not just a reflection of the world around you, but a sacred vibration that carries your essence, your values, your deepest wisdom. When you find this voice and learn to live from it, you step into a freedom that cannot be shaken by outside judgment. You begin to embody the duality of Gemini not as conflict, but as harmony, both light and shadow, both question and answer. And as you unfold into this authenticity, you give permission for others to do the same. So as we walk together through this exploration, let yourself listen not only with your mind, but also with your heart. If these words resonate, feel free to share them, to pass this message along, and to join this journey more deeply. Your presence is what makes this circle alive. For Gemini, the search for authenticity often begins with an unsettling realization that so much of your identity has been shaped by the reflections of others. Since childhood, you may have sensed that you could easily adjust yourself to fit into different groups, conversations, and environments. One moment you are the witty conversationalist, the life of the party, weaving stories that captivate those around you. The next, you are the deep thinker, curious and contemplative, asking questions that open hidden doors in people's minds. This ability is both a blessing and a burden. It allows you to connect effortlessly, yet it can leave you wondering, who am I when no one is watching? This question is the first gateway to discovering your authentic self. Authenticity, for a Gemini, is not about stripping away your layers until only one version of you remains. That would be denying your very nature. Instead, it is about weaving together the many threads of your identity into a tapestry that feels honest and whole. Think of it as creating a symphony from the countless notes you carry within you. Each role you played, each story you've told, each perspective you've inhabited. They all belong to you, but the true art lies in finding the common melody that ties them together, the deeper truth that does not shift even as your expression evolves. Many Gemini struggle with this because society often demands linearity and consistency. The world tells you to pick a lane, to define yourself once and for all, to settle into a stable image that others can easily understand. But you, dear Gemini, are not meant to be confined to a single lane. You are a constellation of possibilities. The challenge is not to reduce yourself, but to claim yourself, to say, yes, I am both this and that, both curious and restless, both playful and profound. Your authentic voice emerges when you stop trying to silence one half of yourself in order to please the world, and instead learn to stand confidently in your wholeness. Take, for example, famous Geminis like Prince or Angelina Jolie. Prince was a shapeshifter in music, blending genres, genders, and identities into a form of expression that was unmistakably his own. He never apologized for being too much, too varied, too experimental. Angelina Jolie, on the other hand, embodies a Gemini duality between strength and vulnerability. She is both an action icon and a humanitarian, a woman unafraid to reveal the complexity of her nature. What these figures teach us is that authenticity does not look like uniformity. It looks like courage, the courage to express the full spectrum of who you are, even if it doesn't fit into neat categories. But how does one find this courage? It begins with silence. For an air sign, silence is not always natural. You thrive in dialogue, in motion, in exchange. Yet without moments of stillness, it is too easy to confuse the voices of others with your own. When you sit with yourself, away from the noise, you begin to notice which thoughts are truly yours and which are borrowed. Journaling can be a powerful tool for Gemini, a way to capture the fleeting fragments of thought before they slip away. By writing, you begin to trace patterns, to uncover recurring themes that point toward your deeper truth. Meditation, 2, though challenging at first, can help you listen more carefully, not to external chatter, but to the whispers of your soul. Another key step is to notice when you are performing. As a Gemini, performance comes so naturally that you may not even realize you're doing it. You shift your tone, your body language, even your beliefs to match the room. But beneath performance lies a feeling, either of alignment or disconnection. The next time you feel yourself shape-shifting, pause and ask, am I expressing myself or am I seeking approval? This simple question can illuminate the moments when your authentic self is hidden, waiting for you to let it breathe. Authenticity also asks you to embrace your contradictions. You may feel torn between the part of you that craves freedom and the part that longs for stability, between your playful curiosity and your serious intellect. Instead of choosing one over the other, what if you allowed them both to exist? What if your authenticity is precisely the paradox? In truth, this paradox is your power. It allows you to bridge worlds, to be the translator between different people, ideas, and dimensions. Your true voice is not singular. It is multifaceted, and therein lies its beauty. There will always be fear when you begin to speak from this authentic place. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being too much, fear of losing the approval you once gained from fitting in. But each time you dare to speak your truth, even in small ways, you strengthen the muscle of authenticity. Start with honesty in your closest relationships. Express your real feelings, even if they seem contradictory. Allow yourself to be seen as you are, not as a version that feels easiest for others to digest. Ultimately, discovering your authentic self as a Gemini is less about creating a new identity and more about remembering what has always been true. Beneath the shifting roles, beneath the chatter of your mind, there is a steady pulse, a voice that is uniquely yours, that does not depend on approval, that does not fear contradiction. When you align with this voice, you no longer feel the need to escape yourself. You no longer feel fragmented. Instead, you feel like a whole being, complex, yes, but beautifully and unapologetically whole. This first step is a doorway. Once you cross it, the rest of the journey unfolds not as a burden, but as a liberation. Because to be authentic for a Gemini is to finally come home to yourself. As a Gemini, once you've begun the process of uncovering your authentic self, the next great challenge is learning how to give voice to that self in a world that often misunderstands or misinterprets you. This stage is not only about knowing who you are on the inside, but about finding the courage and clarity to express it outwardly. For you, communication is more than just words. It is your lifeblood, the medium through which you shape connections, share ideas, and influence the collective field. Yet many Geminis, despite their gift of eloquence, feel at times that their true voice is buried beneath layers of performance, politeness, or distraction. To reclaim your true voice, you must learn to differentiate between speaking for approval and speaking from truth. The world is filled with noise, and as someone deeply sensitive to the vibrations around you, it's easy to lose your clarity in the sea of opinions. Think of how often you walked into a room and instantly adapted your tone or your choice of words to fit the atmosphere. This is your gift of adaptability at work. But it can also become a trap. Over time, your voice may morph so many times that you start to question whether you've ever really spoken from your soul. The antidote is intentional awareness. Begin by paying attention to how your body feels when you are speaking. When your words are authentic, there's a sense of ease, of alignment, as though something larger than yourself is flowing through you. When they're inauthentic, you may feel tension, shallowness, or even a subtle sense of emptiness. Consider the example of Bob Dylan, a Gemini who constantly reinvented his voice and identity. While his style shifted dramatically throughout his career, one thing remained constant. He never allowed others to dictate what he should sound like. His authenticity lay in the very act of following his inner compass, even when it meant alienating audiences who expected him to remain the same. For you, too, finding your true voice means accepting that not everyone will resonate with it. And that is okay. Your voice is not meant for everyone. It is meant for those whose souls are ready to hear it. One practical way to begin reclaiming your authentic voice is through creative expression. Whether it is writing, music, painting, or storytelling, creativity allows you to bypass the critical filters of your mind and tap into something more raw and genuine. Geminis often find that their authentic self comes alive when they are in the act of creating, when they are not overthinking but simply allowing inspiration to flow. In those moments, the voice that emerges is unfiltered and real. This is why so many Geminis thrive as artists, writers, and innovators. Through creation, you not only discover your voice, you strengthen it. Another dimension of this journey is learning to say no. Because you are naturally curious and eager to engage, you may find yourself saying yes to too many things. Yes to opportunities, yes to friendships, yes to roles that don't always align with who you truly are. Each yes to something inauthentic dilutes your voice, scattering your energy across commitments that do not nourish you. By practicing the art of saying no, you reclaim the power of your yes. You begin to direct your voice toward what truly matters to you, rather than dispersing in directions that lead you away from yourself. It's also essential for you to cultivate deep listening. As paradoxical as it may seem, your true voice is revealed not only in what you say, but also in how you listen. When you listen deeply, to others, to silence, to your inner whispers, you begin to attune yourself to authenticity. The Gemini gift of dialogue is not one-sided. It is a dance between speaking and listening. The more present you are in your listening, the more authentic your speaking becomes, because it arises from connection rather than performance. At times, finding your true voice will require confrontation, not necessarily the loud, aggressive kind, but the quiet bravery of standing firm in your truth, even when it goes against expectations. Perhaps you grew up in a family where certain topics were silenced, or where you felt that your curiosity was too much. Perhaps you learned to censor yourself in order to avoid conflict. But the more you silence yourself, the more distant you feel from your authentic being. Reclaiming your voice may mean having difficult conversations, telling the truth where once you would have hidden it, allowing your vulnerability to be seen. This process can be uncomfortable, but it is also deeply liberating. Imagine the difference between a bird who sings freely and one who sings only when it believes it will be applauded. The first bird sings because that is its nature, its joy, its gift. The second bird is trapped in conditional expression, always dependent on external validation. Which one do you wish to be? Your soul longs for the freedom of the first bird, to sing because you are alive, because your voice is meant to echo into the world. As you practice expressing your authentic voice, you may also notice synchronicities arising. The right people begin to find you, drawn to your energy. Opportunities that align with your truth present themselves. This is not coincidence. It is resonance. When you are authentic, you vibrate at a frequency that magnetizes those who are aligned with you. Instead of chasing after belonging, you attract it naturally. Ultimately, for Gemini, finding your true voice is not about perfecting your speech or convincing others of your worth. It is about embodying the courage to let yourself be heard in your fullness. It is about speaking even when your voice shakes, writing even when you doubt your words, creating even when you fear judgment. Each act of expression strengthens the bridge between your inner world and the outer world, allowing your authenticity to shine. And here lies the great paradox. The more you express your true self, the more you realize that your voice was never meant to belong to you alone. It becomes a gift to others, a mirror, a spark, a reminder that they, too, have a voice within them waiting to be freed. In this way, Gemini's authenticity ripples outward, inspiring not only your own liberation, but the liberation of all those you touch. As you deepen into the process of finding your true voice, you begin to encounter the subtler layers of resistance that live within. For many Geminis, the greatest struggle is not simply about being authentic with the outer world. It is about being authentic with yourself. Beneath your lively communication and quick adaptability, there can often exist an inner conflict, the tension between the self you long to be and the self you believe you must be in order to survive, succeed, or be loved. This inner dissonance can create a restlessness that no amount of external validation can soothe. At some point, you realize that the world can only hear your true voice when you are willing to hear yourself. Gemini is the sign of duality. The twins. And within you, there are always at least two voices in conversation. One may whisper of your dreams, your creative impulses, your need for freedom and exploration. The other may warn of responsibilities, expectations, or the fear of failure. Both voices are valid, and both carry wisdom. The challenge lies in discerning which one belongs to your deeper truth and which one arises from conditioning. Too often, the conditioned voice dominates, shaping your choices in subtle ways, telling you to take the safe path, to hide the parts of yourself that seem too unconventional, to avoid rocking the boat. And yet, every time you silence your true voice, the inner dissonance grows louder, manifesting as anxiety, boredom, or even a sense of emptiness. To integrate these inner voices, you must practice radical honesty with yourself. This means acknowledging when you are not living in alignment, even if admitting it is painful. For example, perhaps you've stayed in a job that no longer excites you because it provides stability, or you've kept quiet in a relationship where your needs aren't met because you fear being alone. These compromises may seem small, but each one erodes your authenticity a little more. To reclaim your voice, you must begin to tell yourself the truth without sugarcoating or avoidance. Journaling is again a powerful practice here. Write down not what you think you should feel, but what you actually feel. Allow contradictions to exist on the page. Over time, clarity emerges, not from forcing an answer, but from honoring the complexity of your inner dialogue. Another profound practice for Geminis is shadow work. Because you are so attuned to external perception, it can be difficult to face the parts of yourself that you would rather keep hidden. Yet these hidden aspects often hold the keys to your authenticity. Perhaps you've suppressed your anger because you wanted to be seen as likable. Perhaps you've downplayed your ambition because you fear being judged as selfish. But every trait you repress becomes a shadow, and these shadows leak into your voice in unconscious ways, through sarcasm, avoidance, or self-doubt. By bringing them into the light, you free your voice from distortion. Instead of speaking through fear or defensiveness, you begin to speak from wholeness. Let's look at another real-life example. Kanye West, a Gemini known for both his brilliance and his controversies. While many criticize his lack of filter, what cannot be denied is that his voice is unapologetically his own. He refuses to dilute himself to fit societal norms, and though his approach may sometimes be extreme, it illustrates the Gemini challenge of authenticity, how to honor your truth without being consumed by ego. The lesson here is not to emulate his behavior, but to understand that your voice carries power precisely because it is unique. The task is to express it responsibly, without losing its rawness. Once you begin to integrate your inner voices and shadows, a new sense of alignment arises. You start to notice that your words carry more weight, not because you are speaking louder, but because they are infused with integrity. People respond differently. They sense the authenticity in your tone, in your eyes, in the pauses between your words. This is the magnetism of truth. You no longer need to convince others of your worth. Your presence communicates it naturally. Still, the path is not linear. There will be times when you slip back into old patterns, when you catch yourself people-pleasing or performing. In those moments, compassion is key. Authenticity is not about perfection. It is about practice. Each time you realign with your true voice, even after faltering, you strengthen your connection to it. Think of it like tuning an instrument. The guitar may go out of tune, but with attention and care, you can bring it back to harmony. The more often you tune, the more natural it becomes. And here, an important truth emerges. Your authentic voice is not only for you. It is a medicine for others. Every time you dare to reveal who you truly are, you invite others to drop their masks as well. Your courage becomes contagious. Imagine a world where each Gemini chose to live from their authentic voice. Conversations would be richer, ideas more innovative, communities more alive. The ripple effect of your authenticity is immeasurable. Perhaps this is why you were gifted with such eloquence in the first place. Mercury, your ruling planet, governs communication not as a trivial skill, but as a sacred duty. Through your voice, you are meant to bridge gaps between mind and heart, between different perspectives, between what is and what could be. But you cannot fulfill this role if your voice is fragmented. Only when you anchor in your authenticity can your communication truly heal, inspire, and transform. So the invitation of this stage is clear. Dare to be honest with yourself, embrace your shadows, and allow your voice to arise not from fear, but from alignment. This is how you move from duality to unity, from confusion to clarity, from silence to song. And as you step into this fuller expression, you prepare yourself for the next part of the journey, the discovery of how your authentic voice can not only liberate you, but also help you find your place in the greater symphony of the world. Once you begin to honor your authentic voice within yourself, the next step is learning how to share it with the world in a way that feels expansive, purposeful, and deeply connected. For Gemini, this stage can be both exhilarating and terrifying. Exhilarating because you finally feel the freedom to express without restraint, and terrifying because expressing your truth often exposes you to vulnerability, misunderstanding, or criticism. Yet it is precisely in this act of sharing that you step into your true power. The world often rewards conformity. We are conditioned from a young age to say the right things, to fit into acceptable roles, to smooth out the rough edges of our individuality. For a Gemini, whose voice is naturally vibrant and multidimensional, this conditioning can be especially suffocating. You may have been told you talk too much, that you change your mind too often, that your curiosity is distracting. And so, piece by piece, you may have silenced parts of yourself, creating a voice that was palatable but not authentic. In reclaiming your authentic self, the task now is to reclaim space in the world, to speak in ways that reflect your truth even when it feels risky. One key to this process is discerning the difference between expression and validation. Expression arises from within. It is a natural overflow of your truth. Validation, on the other hand, is a hunger for approval. When you speak from validation, your words may sound pleasing, but they carry little resonance. When you speak from authentic expression, however, people feel in their bones, even if they don't consciously understand why. The resonance of authenticity cannot be faked. It is a frequency that cuts through noise and awakens something real in others. Think about Maya Angelou, a Gemini whose words transformed the world. Her poetry and speeches were not designed to please everyone. They were born from her lived truth, her pain, her resilience, her wisdom. She spoke not to be accepted, but because silence was no longer an option. That is the essence of an authentic Gemini voice, a voice that arises from necessity, from the soul's refusal to remain hidden. Sharing your authentic voice also means accepting that not everyone will celebrate it. Some may resist, criticize, or misunderstand you. This is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It is often a sign that you are doing something right. Authenticity disrupts illusions. It shakes the foundations of systems built on conformity. When you speak your truth, you give others a choice either to confront their own masks or to reject you for making them uncomfortable. Neither response defines your worth. Your task is not to be universally liked, but be true to yourself. Of course, authenticity does not mean blurting out every passing thought or disregarding the impact of your words. As a Gemini, your mind is quick and your tongue even quicker, which means you carry great responsibility. Your authentic voice is most powerful when it is anchored in awareness and compassion. Speak your truth, but do so in a way that opens doors rather than slamming them shut. When your authenticity is rooted in love, it becomes a force of healing rather than harm. Another dimension of this journey is discovering the unique medium for your voice. Not every Gemini will thrive through public speaking or writing books. Some may find their voice in music, in art, in activism, in teaching, or even in the quiet act of honest conversation. The form matters less than the essence. What matters is that the medium you choose allows you to express your truth without distortion. Pay attention to where you feel most alive. When your words or creations flow effortlessly, when you lose track of time, when you feel both free and grounded. These are signs that you are in alignment with your authentic voice. As you continue to express yourself, you may notice that your voice evolves. Authenticity is not static. It is a living, breathing force. The truths you express today may shift tomorrow as you grow and expand. This does not make you inconsistent. It makes you human. For Gemini, whose essence is ever-changing, this evolution is especially important to honor. Your authenticity is not about locking yourself into one identity, but about remaining faithful to what is true for you in each moment. Trust that your voice can adapt without losing its integrity. There is also a collective dimension to this work. When Geminis find and share their authentic voice, they often become catalysts for larger conversations. You have the ability to articulate truths that others feel but cannot express. You can bridge gaps between different perspectives, translating complexity into clarity. This is why your voice is so needed in the world, because it carries the potential to unite rather than divide, to inspire dialogue rather than silence. Take, for instance, the way Greta Thunberg, though not a Gemini herself, embodies a kind of authenticity that resonates globally. She speaks with raw honesty, without polishing her words for comfort, and the impact is undeniable. Imagine what happens when Geminis, with their natural eloquence and adaptability, step into that same level of truth-telling. The world does not just listen, it shifts. And yet, perhaps the most important aspect of sharing your authentic voice is the way it transforms you. Every time you speak from truth, you dissolve a little more of the fear that once held you back. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen the bond between your inner and outer worlds. Over time, this creates a sense of coherence that is deeply healing. No longer do you feel like two separate people, the one you show to the world and the one you hide inside. You become one, integrated and whole. This wholeness is your gift to yourself and to the world. Because when you live and speak authentically, you do more than express your individuality. You become a mirror for others to find their own. In a society that often demands masks, your willingness to be real is revolutionary. And as you walk this path, you are preparing for the next stage of your journey. Learning how to use your authentic voice not only as a tool for self-expression, but as a means to create deeper connections, communities, and even a sense of belonging in a world that can sometimes feel isolating. Having stepped into practice of speaking your authentic voice, the next layer is discovering how that voice shapes your relationships, your community, and your sense of belonging in the world. For Gemini, who often feels both everywhere and nowhere at once, this step is essential. You are a bridge, a traveler between minds and worlds, and yet your heart longs for a place where your voice is not only heard but truly received. This is where authenticity transforms from a personal liberation into a collective gift. So often, Geminis feel misunderstood because of their duality. You may notice that some people only want one version of you, the witty conversationalist, the intellectual debater, or the light-hearted entertainer, while ignoring the depth, seriousness, or vulnerability that also lives within you. This selective listening can be painful. It can make you feel fragmented, unseen, or as though you must shrink yourself to fit the expectations of others. But when you consistently embody your authentic voice, you begin to attract those who can meet you fully. It becomes less about forcing others to understand you, and more about aligning with those who already do. This shift requires trust. Trust that your voice is enough, even if it doesn't resonate with everyone. Trust that you do not need to perform to be loved. Trust that the relationships meant for you will not demand you to silence your truth. This is not an easy lesson for Gemini, because you thrive on connection and often fear losing it. But authenticity naturally filters your connections. It reveals who is truly aligned with you and who is not. While this may feel like loss at first, it is actually liberation. You no longer have to waste energy maintaining bonds built on illusion. Instead, you create space for deeper, truer connections to enter. Consider the story of Johnny Depp, another Gemini whose eccentricity and fluid identity often confused audiences. While some rejected his unconventional nature, he found his true place in roles and relationships that allowed his uniqueness to shine. His journey illustrates that authenticity may not grant you universal approval, but it grants you resonance with the right people and places. For Gemini, this is the essence of belonging, not being accepted by everyone, but being fully seen by the ones who matter. In practical terms, one way to cultivate authentic connection is to practice radical communication. This means not only speaking your truth, but also creating space for others to share theirs. Geminis, with their natural curiosity, are uniquely skilled at this. When you ask deep questions, when you listen not just for words but for emotions, you create a field of safety where authenticity can flourish. Your true voice does not dominate. It invites dialogue. It weaves a web of honesty where both you and others feel free to drop your masks. At the same time, you must learn to set boundaries. Because your gift of communication makes you so accessible, others may try to draw on your energy without giving back. Boundaries protect your authenticity. They remind you that you are not obligated to be everything for everyone. Saying no is not a rejection of connection. It is an affirmation of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, you teach others to respect you as well. This stage of the journey is also about understanding the ripple effect of your voice. Each time you share authentically, whether in a conversation, a piece of art, or a public platform, you create space for others to do the same. Imagine telling a friend that you are struggling with self-doubt instead of pretending you have everything together. Your vulnerability may give them permission to share their own hidden fears. Imagine writing a story that reveals your contradictions, the playful and profound, and someone reads it and realizes they too can embrace their complexity. This is how authenticity spreads, not through grand declarations, but through everyday acts of truth. The beauty of this process is that it transforms loneliness into belonging. Many Geminis carry a subtle ache of feeling misunderstood, as though their quicksilver nature prevents them from being fully known. But authenticity changes that. When you speak your true voice, you signal to the world, "This is who I am. Can you meet me here?" And those who can will respond. Slowly, you begin to weave a tribe, not people who love performance, but of those who resonate with your essence. This is how Gemini finds home, not in a fixed place, but in authentic connection. And here lies perhaps the deepest truth. Your authentic voice is not just about you. It is part of a greater chorus. Each time you honor it, you contribute to the healing of the collective. In a society full of noise, dishonesty, and fear, your willingness to speak truth becomes an anchor. You remind others that freedom is possible. You remind them that contradiction does not mean inauthenticity. It means humanity. You remind them that voices, like souls, are not meant to be confined but to be expressed. At this point, the invitation is to step fully into your role as a messenger, not a messenger of superficial chatter, but of depth, wisdom, and possibility. As a Gemini, you were born under the rulership of Mercury, the archetype of the divine communicator. This means your words are not ordinary. They carry the potential to bridge heaven and earth, spirit and matter, idea and reality. The more authentic your voice, the more powerful your role as this bridge becomes. The journey to authenticity is not about reaching a final destination, but about living as a continual unfolding. You will always evolve, always shift, always dance between worlds. That is your nature. But now, instead of being lost in the dance, you are conscious of it. You know the music of your own soul, and you allow it to guide you. This awareness ensures that no matter how many roles you play, no matter how many conversations you enter, you will never lose your core. And so, as you prepare to step into final integration of this journey, the question arises, how will you carry your authentic voice forward? How will you use it not only to define yourself, but to inspire, to heal, and to co-create with the world around you? The answer is not fixed. It is a living invitation, one that will accompany you into the final stage of this exploration, where everything you have discovered about yourself comes together into a path of meaning, freedom, and deeper purpose. In the end, Gemini, your journey of discovering your authentic self and finding your true voice is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you have always been. Beneath the shifting identities, the endless curiosity, and the countless roles you played lies a steady essence, a truth that has never abandoned you. Your authentic voice is not something you must chase. It is something you uncover each time you choose honesty over performance, presence over distraction, and courage over fear. As you walk this path, you'll continue to face moments of doubt, times when the old masks seem easier to wear. But remember, every step toward authenticity is a step toward freedom. Every time you dare to speak from your heart, you not only liberate yourself, you light a flame that gives others permission to do the same. This is the ripple effect of truth. It is how one Gemini voice can transform not just a conversation, but an entire circle, community, or even generation. The beauty of your journey is that it never truly ends. Your voice will keep evolving. Your authenticity will deepen with each season of your life. And that is the gift. You are not fixed, you are alive. Your duality is not a curse. It is a reminder that you can hold contradictions and still be whole, that you can be many things and still be one, that your complexity is not something to hide, but something to celebrate. So as you leave this space and return to your world, Carry this reminder with you. Your voice matters. It is sacred. It is needed. The world does not require you to be perfect, consistent, or universally liked. What the world longs for is your truth, the melody only you can sing, the perspective only you can offer, the wisdom only you can share. Step into it with courage, speak it with love, and let it guide you home to yourself. And when you are ready, share your reflections below, because your words may be the mirror someone else needs to see their own light.